Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees. Well, the Yankees suffer a huge blow, losing reliever Michael King for the entire season with a fractured elbow. Get into all that, how it actually happened, all ramifications of that, as well as look at the Houston series where the Yankees took one on the chin, and the Baltimore series where the Yankees had to face a surging Baltimore Oriole team, which is only a few games out of a wild card spot, believe it or not. And now the name Juan Soto is being floated out there. Should the Yankees go after him? Pro, the cons, all that. I'll get into all that, but before we do, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. So yes, you're seeing me now, and I know you look forward to seeing me, but you can hear me way more often if you subscribe to the podcast. So wherever you go to listen to podcasts, search Section 420 Talkin Yankees, the podcast. You'll see the icon. You'll see me, perhaps. I don't know. But anyway, click that, and you can subscribe and get notified when new content comes up throughout the rest of the season. That was been for Michael King, done for the year for the Yankees, and really a tremendous blow because he's really involved as the eighth inning guy for the Yankees and been great for the Yankees. Just getting out of a lot of big jams. How many times do you see him like this first and third and nobody out, and he gets a strikeout, and then the next guy gets into a ground ball double play. So he's really emerged for the Yankees this season. So him going down is a big blow. Now we don't know exactly what did it. The diagnosis is a fractured elbow, and as I kind of mentioned before the start of this season, just being teammates with Corey Kluber last year, supposedly Kluber taught him the Kluber ball, which is like a slider curve, what they used to call a slurve. Again, put a lot of torque on the elbow, and just maybe after doing that for so long, eventually gave out, so he had a crack there. So did go through a procedure. Now, there was, it could have been actually worse. The procedure didn't require Tommy John surgery. Had it done that, then, the timetable for him to come back would have been pushed way back. So he just had a normal procedure for that. Turns out he should be available around, a spring training, so not losing him for, a whole chunk of 2023. But again, it is a blow for the Yankees because you look at this season. Again, Clay Holmes now has emerged as the ninth inning guy. He's been good now over a significant period of time, so now you trust him. King as the eighth inning man, you trusted him as well because you just seen him perform over a long period of time. And King was versatile. He wasn't just an eighth inning guy. Man, he could get multiple outs. He could go for 2 innings there. So just losing him is a big blow because if you look at some of the options for the Yankees, obviously Chapman's has been terrible, and we'll get into that as we discuss the Baltimore series. Very inconsistent. Again, just really for Chapman over a long period of time. He's you just kind of you really hold your breath when he's on the mound. Loizaga, yes, he's back. It's great, but he really hasn't put it together enough body of work where you really feel confident in him. Now, Loizaga was good for the Yankees last season. He kind of was the eighth inning man before King kind of assumed that role earlier this season. So can he get back to that? Possibly. He still has the velocity. He's a young guy, but he really didn't get up to the greatest start of the season, and then of course he missed a chunk of time with the rehabbing the shoulder strain. Now he's come back and he's pitched a couple of innings. Of course the first one against the Reds he was terrible. He got beat up a little bit. Has made a couple appearances after that, okay, but still not enough where you feel he's really a great replacement for him. So if you look at those two players, you don't see them as close to the quality of what King could provide. Of course, you got Rob Marinaccio, who's also out for a while. Okay, rehab, he's back. But again, he's a young guy. We haven't seen him in too many high-pressure situations where, again, you feel comfortable with him over a long period of time. So this is a big blow for the Yankees. I'm not sure what they can do with term solutions. Again, they're probably just going to try to hope Chapman gets it together, hope Loizaga could be the Loizaga he was last season. And then other than that, it's probably a situation where you definitely have to look at someone at the trade deadline. Probably even one. I mean, even before the King injury, I felt the Yankees at least need one more bullpen arm to bring in here because remember the fact too they also lost Green early this season, so I think they needed another arm anyway. So now you look at that, maybe need 2 big arms. And I know Britton's coming around the corner, but still he's rehabbing. From his Tommy John, they say he should be back around August, September. But again, until he's on the mound and getting guys out in big situations, you really can't count on him. If he comes back and he's the Britton, we know the Britton, great. But again, until he's back, you really can't rely on that. So the Yankees are in a bit of trouble right now. You think what other solutions they possibly could do. You could have possibly Sevy now. Now Severino is on the IL for a while. But when he comes back, maybe toward the idea of him coming out of the bullpen. If you remember, last year was the Yankees. He was never come back in time for them to build him up as a starter, so they kind of used him out of the bullpen, and he was great. Since he didn't have to worry about going 5 or 6 innings, they were just bringing him to like the 7th or 8th or just pitch 1 inning, and he would just empty the tank and be able to blow 100-mile fastballs past people. So is that something the Yankees may consider? I'm not sure, just because I think by the time Severino comes back, there's still a lot of the season left. So I think they'd rather have him as a starter. But again, it is a possibility that Severino could be inserted that role, especially now that Germán is back, and if Germán could get his stuff together, well, then it kind of fills up your 5-man rotation, and then maybe you can afford to use Severino out of the bullpen. Something the Yankees done several times, not only this last season, but even rehabbed, back in 2016-17 when he came back from a shoulder issue. They used him out of the bullpen. He was fabulous. So he's used to the role. He can handle it. And again, maybe that might be a blessing in disguise. So we'll see where that goes with that. But again, losing King, very big blow for the Yankees, because you just think of so many big jams he's gotten out of this season. So to have a guy like that is very valuable. And it's just kind of weird what really led up to that. Again, it could be just the funkiness of the ball he throws. Again, pitching in general is very the way you just snap your elbow like that. Every pitch for any pitcher could be their last pitch for a while. But if you remember, right before that, you had the Red Series and the Red Sox series, and you had a couple of extra inning games that King was involved with there. Got one big jam during the Red Series, and then also pitched in the extra inning game against the first game against Boston. Now, he ended up throwing a wild pitch there, which ended up costing the Yankees game. But again, he was involved in a lot of high leverage, high pressure situations leading up to that. So maybe you throw the ball a little harder, you grip it a little harder, maybe you snap the elbow a little quicker. Maybe some of that led up to this. We don't really know. But again, this is going to be a big blow for the Yankees, and the fact that he's out, the fact you see Chapman struggling, and the fact Loizaga really hasn't looked like Loizaga last season, the Yankees really got to be concerned. So as you might have saw, the Yankees were well represented at the All-Star game, a game that the American League won 3-2, thanks to a big 2-run home run by Giancarlo Stanton. So the Yankees, getting some notoriety there. And I don't think caught the game itself. The game itself, was a tie game, not great, but most of it was just about the on-the-field antics. Of course, they had Judge and Stanton mic'd up. They had Nestor Cortez and Trevino mic'd up, and then you see Cole talking in the dugout there. So a bit of a spectacle. But again, this is good to see the Yankees well represented. They were kind of the story there. And of course, that ball is Stanton crushed. I'm sorry if you saw some images of it. The ball's supposed to be round. He made it almost triangular because he smashed it so hard. And so it was good to see him there. But unfortunately, I guess, before this, the trip, supposedly he was complaining of some fatigueness there. And then when he came back, and I'll get to a little bit with the Baltimore series, he actually had to sit out 2 games just from general fatigueness. Now people say, well, if you were hurt or you're tired, or why are you playing these games? I don't think it was really a big deal. I mean, it's for him, and let it be fun and let him represent the team. The Yankees are having a good season this year, and he's a California guy, so let him fly out there, maybe see some family members. I don't think it's really a big deal. Yes, it did cost him possibly some playing time against that Orioles series, and perhaps they could use him for that second game, which they lost. But nevertheless, I don't think it was a big deal. Now, if he was a pitcher, for example, that's hurt, and you're feeling a little sore, that's the case where, don't play in that game at all and rest up because pitching is way more important. But as a position player, I don't fault Stanton there. Again, play, yes, maybe cost you a few games, but I don't think it was a big deal. But after the honeymoon with that, the Yankees got a really dose of reality, because now they made that trip to Houston for a doubleheader. Again, that was part of a 3-game series in April that got rescheduled. Now, when the Yankees had that trip, earlier in July, started off in Houston, they lost that one 2-1, and then this was going to be those final 2 games in Houston, a doubleheader in Minute Maid Park, and the Yankees ended up dropping both. Now, the first game was kind of close. The Yankees were actually able to tie it in the 9th inning. A little clutch hitting there by IKF to get Hicks in. But unfortunately, the Yankees ended up losing that game in extra innings, and it was that gentleman I mentioned before, Michael King, again, in a very high-pressure situation, a high-leverage situation, bases-loaded situation. Got the second out via strikeout, and then it was an infield single that no one was covering second base for the Yankees because they had a shift, and Houston ends up winning that first game 4-3, walk-off fashion, and just getting another frustrating loss to the Houston Astros. The Yankees just seem to lose this game by just 1 run. And it's just, putting it to the stamp that these Yankees just cannot beat this team. But they did have an opportunity to, recoup themselves in the second game of the doubleheader. Unfortunately, they got blown out of that one as well. Now, you look at the final score, 7-5, say, hey, it was a close game, but really wasn't. Now, a little bit, I'm going to fault Boone a little bit for that second game. He decided this would be the game that they bring back Domingo Germán. Again, he's been rehabbing for a while. I did not like the decision at all. I mean, Tyone was ready, prepared for that game. He hadn't pitched in about a week. And his last start, Tyone was very good against the Boston Red Sox. Only gave up 1 run. His pitch count in that game was relatively low. He only went 6 innings. I think it was a little under 80 pitches. So he was more than fresh enough for that game. And again, obviously, he's the better pitcher at the point. He has 10 wins. He's more seasoned. I liked him in that situation on the road in Houston, where the Yankees are going to struggle anyway. I'd rather go with Tyone in that situation. Not Domingo Germán making his first start of the season, and you throw him right into the lion's den like that. So I'm not saying Tyone and the Yankees would have won that game, but I think going in, I think I'd rather have gone with Tyone in that situation. Unfortunately, they went with Germán, and he got cuffed up early. Ended up giving up 2 home runs in the first inning, and over 3 innings of work, ended up giving up 5 runs. This was a game the Yankees weren't in at all, and Gleyber Torres hit a 2-run home run to put them on the board a little bit. but JPCs and the rest of the bullpen didn't do that much better. The Yankees were down 7-2 at one point. Now with 2 runners on in the ninth, Judge hit a big 3-run home run to bring it within 7-5. So on paper you look at it and say, hey, it was 7-5 loss is a close game. But really the Yankees almost really lost this game 7-2, and they would end up losing the final score 7-5. So the Yankees swept both games in this doubleheader. And again, if you're Yankees or a Yankee fan, you're wondering, what can we do to beat this Houston team? Because it seems like their starting pitching, whoever they put out there, doesn't even have to be Verlander. It could be Christian Javier. The Yankees cannot figure these guys out. So I don't know what the Yankees are going to do. And if you just look at Houston's bullpen right now, statistically better than the Yankees. In fact, now the fact that the Yankees lost Michael King, definitely much better than the Yankees. So they look like they have the edge there. Their hitters coming through. Their starting pitchers coming through. So I just don't know. Now Boone's excuse is like, well, you know what? The more we see their pitches, the more our hitters can learn something, pick up something. Or maybe that's the case. But for whatever reason, it just seems like the Houston pitching coach and the scouts, whatever, they just got the Yankees numbers. They know how to pitch the Yankees. They know how to keep the Yankees off the board. So it's great the Yankees having this tremendous season. The Yankees might even end up with more regular season wins than the Houston Astros. But if it's a situation where the Yankees got to face the Astros in the playoffs, especially if somehow Houston does end up with a better record than the Yankees, and the Yankees got to go to Minute Maid Park, almost forget about it. So the Yankees had to clean off their chin after taking one in Houston and travel to Baltimore. And earlier this season, you would think, all right, a trip to Baltimore would be easy, some nice 3 easy wins, relaxing. But the Baltimore Orioles have been surging. Yeah, as you may have saw before the All-Star break, had that 10-game winning streak, and overall had won 11 of their last 13 games. And funny enough, Boston has really been sinking the AL East. The Yankees helped out there a little bit in those last 2 games before the All-Star break. Really faltering. In fact, they had that crazy score against the Toronto Blue Jays, losing 28-5 in their own ballpark, including an inside-the-park grand slam. The center fielder lost the ball in the lights, and everyone was able to score home. And even saw that when the Yankees went to Fenway last time, Joey Gallo had a fly ball to right field, which should have been a normal out. The right fielder couldn't find the ball. The ball actually ended up dropping in there. So, I don't know, there's having little issues there. And this Boston this seems right now to be just on the brink of shambles there. And this is kind of interesting because you figure out maybe at some point they might be busy in the, around the trade deadline. But right now it just seems like they're getting really buried down there. And it's really Baltimore and Boston kind of competing for the 4th, 5th spot in the AL East. But nevertheless, the Yankees went to Baltimore, and this was the game one. This is the game when the Yankees lost Michael King for the season where he got hurt, and I'll kind of get into the details how it happened. Now, Boone decided to pitch Tyone for this game. As you mentioned, I think this should have been the start for Domingo Germán, a much less pressure situation as your first game back for the season. It's in Camden Yards. The place is half empty, and one half of the people in there are Yankee fans, the other half are empty seats. So much better situation for him to thrive. And again, it's yet another day off for Tyone. Just because these pitchers are creatures of habit now, it's another day of him not throwing. So it was completely out of whack, and it did show. Now the Yankees got on the board early in this game, thanks to Judge, a 3-run home run. In the 3rd inning, put them up 3-0. Unfortunately, Tyone didn't really have much in this game. Threw a lot of pitches, was struggling a lot. He couldn't even get out of the 3rd inning. Ended up giving up 2 earned runs in the bottom of the 3rd inning. Cut the lead, Yankee lead to 3-2. He wasn't affected at all. Gave up 4 hits, 3 walks, only 2 strikeouts. But again, he couldn't even make it out of the 3rd inning there. So they needed Lucas Luckily to get the Yankees across the 5th inning. He ended up getting the win there. Now Judge added on another home run, his 36th of the season, in the 5th inning, and even on top of the 7th, our friend Joey Gallo, who's been doing a little better incrementally, but still, fans probably can't wait to get rid of him, added a 7th run for the Yankees with a home run to center field. Now that 7th run ended up to be crucial because at the point you look at it, well, it's 7-3, no problem. Unfortunately, this is where the game almost got away from the Yankees, and this is where they ended up losing King. In the bottom of the 7th inning, they decided to go with Chapman. Again, Chapman now kind of been designated as the new 7th inning guy, so at this point it's not really a crazy idea. But he struggled mightily, ended up giving up a hit to Cedric Mullins, lefty on left now. You figured Chapman usually handles Mullins pretty well now, but this time Mullins finally got to him. He was on base. He would actually end up taking another base thanks to a wild pitch from Chapman, who was struggling. Ended up walking Trey Mancini, so he had 2 runners on with Anthony Santander up, and Santander has killed the Yankees this season, specifically at Yankee Stadium. Hits a big 3-run home run, pulls Baltimore within 7-6, and Chapman was just a mess out there. And, you've seen Chapman pitch in the summertime. He's just got sweat dripping down. He looks unfocused. He's unsure of himself. He's throwing wild pitches. Really uncomfortable to watch. And again, we now have another hot month of August in front of us, and you can probably see more of that from Chapman. So they have to end up taking him out of the game, bring in Michael King, and this is where, all right, King is able to clean up Chapman's mess, get out of the inning, bring King again out in the 8th, and ends up throwing a pitch where it was just completely hit the dirt, and you can see he winced there. and they ended up taking him off the mound right away. You could see something was wrong with him, and after the game, he was diagnosed with the fractured elbow. And if you just look about it, if Chapman did his job properly, and then have to bring out King in the 7th inning as well as come on the 8th, is it possible that King doesn't get hurt there? Something to look at. But again, I'm not going to blame Chapman for King's injury, but it is partially responsible in a way. But nevertheless, with King out, they actually bring out Clay Holmes early to get a 5-out save. So using him in the 8th and 9th inning, so the Yankees were able to close out that win, get the 7-6 win. But of course, the big blow now is that they had lost Michael King for the season. And again, I'm not going to blame Chapman for that, but if Chapman has a clean 7th inning, more than likely, King could come out in 8th as normally as they probably were planning to doing, and then Holmes could have had a normal 9th inning of just getting 3 outs each, and probably we're not even talking about this King injury at all. So before Game 2, there was a flurry of moves due to the King injury. Now, since he was sent down or taken off the roster with the injury, decided to call up Clark Schmidt and Rob Marinaccio, returning from his rehab. Now, to make an extra roster spot available, ended up sending Tim LaCastro, the outfielder, down to AAA to do that, and also to bolster up the bullpen. Ended up signing Shane Green to a major league contract. Now, he had been in the Yankee minor league system. ERA a little over 3, appeared in 15 games, nothing great, but you may remember Green. He was a Yankee prospect going back to 2014, and he was part of the 3-way trade with Detroit and Arizona that ended up sending Didi Gregorius here. You say the Yankees got the better of that whole deal. Green, he was a Detroit closer for a couple of seasons going back to 2018, 2019. Nothing spectacular, always had a higher ERA, but after that bounced around a little bit with the Dodgers and Atlanta, seemed to be struggling. But the Yankees brought him back, and you see the Yankees do this a lot. They even tried with Greg Bird. I guess, when one of your prospects you drafted goes away, you want to bring him back so you can resurrect the career. Never really works out. But for the game itself, it was Jordan Lyles versus Garrett Cole making his first start after the All-Star game. Actually ended up devouring a banana, in the dugout. That was kind of probably his highlight for the game. Game he ended up losing, but we'll get to all the details of that. Now, Judge got the Yankees on the board early in the first inning thanks to an RBI single, brought in DJ LeMahieu. Matt Carpenter added another run in the second inning, a solo home run. 2-0, but this would be a game for the Yankees that would be kicking themselves in the pants because just missed opportunities. In the third inning, had a bases loaded situation. Aaron Hicks up. He did nothing with it. Now, in the fourth inning, Judge added another RBI single hit to bring in a third run, made the game 3-0. But you had 2 runners on with nobody out, and both Anthony Rizzo and Gleyber Torres just flew out. So again, another opportunity with men on base, and the Yankees didn't really cash in there. Really should have put up a crooked number, and it kept the Baltimore Orioles in the game. And ultimately, they would come back and bite the Yankees in the backside, and started in the 5th inning. With Mateo on, he would end up stealing a base, so they end up in this inning. They should end up swiping 2 bags off of Higgy. Cedric Mullins would, with Mateo on second. Mullins would get him in with an RBI single, and then Rauchman with Mateo on, he would steal a base, and then Rauchman would hit a double and score Mullins in. So this game was 3-2. Mullins really killed the Yankees throughout this whole series. It would come to the 7th inning now. Baltimore would eventually tie the game with that gentleman again. Mullins on base. Ramon Urias would hit a double, and he would end up scoring, and so tied the game at 3-3. And at the point, you had to take Cole out of the game. Now, it's a situation where if they had Michael King, would they have extended Cole for that 7th inning there? I mean, Cole's pitch count was getting high to begin with, so maybe Boone figured he could push him a little bit more. But again, if you had a healthy Michael King in the bullpen, that's probably a situation where Cole's not even in the 7th inning. But nevertheless, he tried to extend Cole, and Cole probably ran out of gas. They had to go with Albert Abreu. Now, he tried to pick Mateo off at first. A bad throw allowed Mateo to go to third base. He would end up scoring on an RBI sac fly, and now Baltimore had now taken the 4-3 lead. So this is a game where the Yankees led 3-0. They now choked the whole lead away, now losing 4-3. And Ramon Urias would put the game away with a 2-1 home run, make the score 6-3. Now, the Yankees tried to mount a little comeback in the 9th inning there, made it a little interesting. LeMahieu got on thanks to an error. Judge would single, so now you have 2 runners on with nobody out. But Rizzo would ground out. Okay, great to move the runners over, but now you have 1 out. And then after that, Gleyber Torres flew out, and Josh Donaldson took a cold strike 3 to end the game. So again, the Yankees with runners on, but couldn't cash in, and the Yankees dropped that second game 6-3, and now giving Baltimore an opportunity to feel maybe they could take the series. And for Game 3, it would come down to the Yankees with Nestor Cortez on the mound. Should come down to Game 3, where maybe Baltimore, as they're having a little surge now in the AL East, figured they could take this game from the New York Yankees, make a bit of a statement. Luckily, the Yankees were able to have a nice, clean breeze, clean and free and easy game, unlike the first two games where, you win a nail bite in game one and lose king for the season. Game two, you choke a 3-0 lead, and, the frustrating part of leaving a ton of men on bases. Game three is a much different situation. Now it was 0-0 in the third inning. DJ LeMay would hit an RBI double to score Trevino, and then shortly right after that, in the same inning, Aaron Judge would hit a 2-run home run, put the Yankees up 3-0. It would be his 37th home run of the season, which helped earn Judge the American League Player of the Week award. The Yankees tacked on a couple more runs in the sixth inning, and then Aaron Hicks put the topper, scoring the sixth run with an RBI hit in the ninth inning, put the Yankees up 6-0 at that point. Now, Nestor Cortez was really the story of the game, though, because, last time we saw him, he had that hard luck loss against, well, not really loss, and the Yankees lost, but he pitched well against the Reds, but Loizaga, gave up a few runs late in the game, so Cortez, obviously didn't get the win there. But now this is two good, strong starts from Cortez in a row, which you'd like to see, because there was a little patch there where he was struggling a little bit, not giving the Yankees much length, not really being as effective, and you're wondering, all right, can he handle the whole season? Are the innings catching up to him? Is the heat catching up to him? But now you put two quality starts in a row, which is kind of important right now, just for the fact that, Severino's going to be out for a while. We don't know yet what we're going to get from Herman. The first start wasn't great, but, so you kind of hold your breath there a little bit. So it's just good to see, Cortez step up there and give now the Yankees some good quality starts for this game. Went 6 innings, 7 strikeouts, only gave it 6 hits and 1 walk. Now the Yankees, who, as mentioned before game 2, brought up Clark Schmidt. He would end up pitching the final 3 innings of this game and end up getting a save. Now you're kind of thinking, wait, it's a 6-0 lead. I thought you have to have only a 3-run lead to get a save. Well, he pitched the final 3 innings of the game. And again, if you're not familiar with the rules of baseball, no matter what the score is, if you do pitch those final 3 innings in relief, you do get a save there. So it's kind of an unconventional save for Schmidt, but his first of the career. And now the Yankees had taken the series 2-1. So this trade deadline, because the big name is going to be Juan Soto, and Jack Curry from the Yes Network did confirm that the Yankees reached out. Now Cashman didn't really get into detail, but Cashman also explained that he's pretty much on the phone all week, all time, so possibly, some of those conversations could be about Soto, but also I think he's probably looking for bullpen relief help. As for Soto, I just don't think the Yankees really should go for him. Now, supposedly the Nationals tried to sign him to a 15-year, $440 million extension. Now, the reason, he's such a prized possession is because, yes, he's great, but he's only 23 years old. That's why someone like Aaron Judge gets kind of screwed a little bit, just because now Judge hitting free agency at 30, 31. This guy's doing it, is going to cash in his early 20s there. So, and that was part of the whole baseball lockout thing with teams controlling these players into their middle to late 20s, and they really can't cash in, and so they're kind of almost getting, maybe the prime years are starting to get away from them. Someone like Soto's in such a great situation. Same thing as we saw with Bryce Harper. That's why he got a ton of money, because not only was he a free agent, but he was very young, and that's why some of these players get upset with Judge. But nevertheless, with Soto, I just don't think the Yankees should go after him. And if he's going to turn down that type of an offer, while at the same time you're talking about possibly bringing Judge back on a long-term deal after the season, I don't know how you sell that one to the fans. And I just don't think it's a situation where they really need Soto. Yes, he's a great player, and I know we all know left-handed hitter at Yankee Stadium. But first of all, two things. First of all, to get him, you're going to have to give up. Yankees are going to probably unload all their major blue chips in the farm system, and maybe give up someone like a Gleyber Torres, who's having a nice bounce-back season and is a young player under control. I don't think all that is worth just for Soto. And plus, too, it's just, we all know the bad part of these long-term contracts. We remember it with A-Rod, we remember it with Teixeira, we remember it with Giambi, and that's not going to be as long as a 15-year deal, where you're just married to a player over a significant amount of time, and what if they start getting some injuries and stuff later on? It just puts stress on everybody, so I don't think they should make that type of a commitment. Again, you're not talking about a 7-8 year deal, it's talking about like 12 years or more you're going to have to commit to this guy. So A, you're going to have to lose prospects, and then B, you're going to have to sign him to a ridiculous amount of money in a long-term deal. I just don't think it makes any sense for the Yankees. Now, of course, they got to do their due diligence and knock on some doors. And for the Nationals, of course, this season is done. They're like 30 games under 500. So I'll say right at this point they're rebuilding. So they're going to look for the team that's going to give them the most blue chip prospects, their best prospects. But I don't think the Yankees should part ways with them. Even if they could put a package together with it, I just don't think one play is worth all that. I just rather them, if they're going to spend money, I think it's rather go, use it on Judge like that, keep your prospects, and just be good and rebuild at the same time. And for Soto, suppose right now, the St. Louis Cardinals have the inside track on him. Also, the crosstown rival Mets look at him, Steve Cohen, who again, he has no problem spending money. But for the Nationals, I really find it hard for them to trade Soto within the division. So more than likely, you want to either move him out of division or move him to the American League. The only benefit now of him staying in the National League is that, of course, now they have the DH, which is probably something going to keep. So even if Soto becomes an older player down the road and maybe gets a little injured and stuff like that, you could always use him as a DH. So that is one benefit there. But again, for the New York Yankees, I don't think he makes any sense. I would rather the Yankees right now just focus on that bullpen, bring in 1 or 2 good arms in here, because that's more vital for this team. Team's rolling right now. You're over 30-something games, over 500. You don't want to mess with the chemistry right now, so I wouldn't, bring a big piece like Soto in here. Yeah, it would be great and stuff like that, but I just think, long term, yeah, maybe great for the season, but long term, I don't think it's a good move for the Yankees at all. And if you look at the numbers with Aaron Judge, home run wise, he's on pace to possibly hit 60 or more home runs. Now, my take is don't burn him out doing this. I don't think it makes absolutely any sense whatsoever. If you're in a situation with the Yankees where you're well ahead by September, I think there's opportunity where you want to give Judge some rest. I mean, he had been complaining with some fatigue a little bit. Just before the All-Star break, it was in a little bit of a slump. Again, now during the Baltimore series, he was fabulous. Had 3 home runs, bunch of hits, a bunch of singles, a bunch of RBIs. But again, he's been playing the outfield a lot, playing a lot of center field, beating up his body. You can see with Stanton needed a couple games out during the Baltimore series because, again, he was complaining of some fatigueness. So I think it's a situation, if you could rest Aaron Judge, do it. Do not go after the 61 home runs. It doesn't make any sense. Doesn't mean anything anymore, really. Right now, technically, Barry Bonds is the home run leader. I know all the PED stuff. But, I just don't think it's worth chasing Maris's 61. If by some reason, maybe Aaron Judge just has an incredible August and he gets papped within a stone's throw away of Barry Bonds 73, I could at least maybe justify it a little bit there more, for him personally, just to accomplish that, as well as going into the free agency, going to free agency with, more than 73 home runs. I mean, he's just going to up his price tag that way, so more power to him. But just to go after Maris at 61 to beat that, say, well, you're the real home run leader right now, I don't think it's worth it. I would rather see Judge well rested and ready for October. And as this episode comes close to closing out, got to congratulate, Yankee broadcast announcer Susan Waldman, part of, John Sterling and Susan, inducted to the Radio Hall of Fame. Joining her will be Chris Mad Dog Russo, as you may recall him from the Mike and the Mad Dog show. So those two go into the Radio Hall of Fame. And Susan, maybe no, she was actually technically the first voice on WFAN when it first aired. She was technically the first voice on that radio. And that really, WFAN really started sports talk radio. So again, old people doing this, such as myself, kind of owe a lot to that station and her. And again, she was the first voice. And she continued to be the voice of the New York Yankees. 75 years old, and Sterling is like in his early 80s. So, they always sign one-year deals at a time. So, I know they make mistakes once in a while, but of course, they make the Yankee games, especially if you're in a car or maybe just, wherever you are, more enjoyable just with their antics and their great characters. And again, congratulations to them. I'm going to remind you one more time, wherever you listen to your podcast, search Section 420 Talkin Yankees, the podcast, and subscribe.